Did you know the library is full of dirt? What do I mean by that anyway? I say it pretty much every episode. What does it mean that the library is full of dirt? Does it mean they never clean? What about the tagline, "Get the dirt"? What does that mean? Should we go find some dirt? No, those are idioms, acronyms, and a play on words. What we are using to help us remember to enjoy discovering interesting reading trails, we've had trails about rabbits, violins, dog diggers, dirt diggers, and more. Each Wednesday's segment of Get the Dirt follows the library summer reading program theme of Getting the Dirt, of Digging Deeper. Today's Get the Dirt is digging deeper about... Do you remember what I said last time about this episode being one of my first occupational choices when I was young? Guess what? We've pulled the old switcheroo, and you'll have to be in suspense for another, just a bit longer. This week's segment of Digging Deeper is about another area of interest, which I have been enjoying getting the dirt. Have you ever been so caught up in a book and forgotten to focus on what you were supposed to be doing? That happens a lot when I'm discovering interesting reading trails. That's what happened in this book about Bookworm Birdie. Bookworm. There's another idiom. This book is called Calvin Can't Fly. Calvin Can't Fly. The story of a bookworm birdie. Calvin is a starling who was born under the eaves of an old barn with his 3 brothers, 4 sisters, and 67,432 cousins. Starlings have big families. Right from the beginning, Calvin was different. Right from the day all the little starlings tumbled out of their nests to discover the world. Charlie discovered worms. Adeline discovered grass. Clement discovered dirt. Aubrey discovered water. And Calvin discovered a book. While all of Calvin's cousins chased beetles, bugs, and ants, Calvin was learning to read letters, words, and sentences. All night, his cousins dreamed of insect eating and garbage picking. Calvin dreamed of adventure stories and poetry. He even dreamed someday he'd become a great writer himself. On June 1st, when all the little starlings lined up for flying lessons with their teacher, Miss Wingstead, Calvin was nowhere to be seen. Where is that bird? Actually, Calvin was in the library. As the other starlings were learning to swoop and hover and fly figure eights, Calvin buried his beak in books, and there his mind soared. Calvin read about pirates and cavemen, volcanoes and rainbows, whales and dinosaurs. Calvin especially loved dinosaurs. He learned how the planets circled the sun, what makes the wind blow, and amazing facts like how caterpillars grow up to become butterflies. His books took him to places wings never could, and his heart fluttered with excitement. Calvin's cousins called him Nerdy Birdie, Beaky Beaky, and Bookworm. When you're a bird, being called a worm is a very bad thing. Calvin ruffled his feathers and mumbled, "Oh, how the wounding words of scorn do sting." Then he sadly waddled back to the library, the only place where he was happy. And he spent all summer reading, learning, and absorbing everything his little starling mind could. Until the first leaf turned orange and fell to the ground. Fall winds set a chill through the old barn. Summer's nests blew to the floorboards. It was time to head south. His cousins warned, "Calvin, you better learn to fly. In a couple of days, we've got to be out of here." Calvin said, "Ah, yes, migration. I've read about that." His sister asked, "Calvin, can you fly?" Calvin had to admit he couldn't. All the other starlings took off in a giant formation, but Calvin could only stand and watch. A big, lonely tear rolled down his cheek. Calvin turned and trudged back to the old barn. He was so upset he didn't even notice his brothers and sisters and cousins coming back to get him. All of a sudden, they were tying up Calvin in his middle with a string and straps of cloths they had found in the garbage. They grasped the ends in their beaks, and off they flew, with Calvin, somewhat embarrassed, safely in tow. For days and days they flew. Calvin recognized the rivers, mountains, and towns he had read about all summer. Steadily, he pointed them out to his brothers and sisters and cousins, while the other starlings just flapped their wings and headed south. Soon there came a day when the winds blew especially hard. Trees bent sideways, leaves scattered widely. Flying became harder and harder. The air had an odd smell to it, the smell of danger. Calvin remembered back to his favorite weather and warned the rest of his family. A hurricane! A hurricane is coming! All of his brothers and sisters and cousins asked, "What a hurricane?" Calvin explained, as quickly as his little beak could, "We need to get out of the path of the violent tropical weather system, which is storming up the coast at a tremendous speed and will not diminish until it encounters large stretches of landmass. Everybody make haste into the cave!" They had no idea what Calvin was saying, but they had to admit it did sound real. So the flock made a loop-de-loop left and a dip-see-doodle right and dove right into the cave. They did everything Calvin told them to. To their amazement, a great storm did blow across the land. It thundered over the mountains, it roared through the villages, it smashed and crashed, rumbled and raged, just as Calvin had predicted. The whole big starling family gathered together, watching in fear and awe. The storm finally ended. The sun came out of the sky, and the starlings came out of the cave. They're all safe and sound, all because of Calvin. They celebrated with a great starling party to honor Calvin. They ate big, juicy worms and yummy, crunchy beetles. They danced and sang songs about how Calvin had saved their lives. They toasted Calvin with acorn caps filled with fresh, clear mountain water. Calvin was so happy. He felt so good deep down inside that he jumped and hopped and danced and flapped his wings and flapped his wings and flapped his wings. All the other starlings looked at him in amazement. "Calvin, you can fly!" Calvin was the happiest starling in the whole wide world. Chirped, "Why, yes, I do believe I can." And they all flew south with big, wide smiles on their little starling faces, especially Calvin. Even though Calvin is a fictional character, there are real-life bookworms who go on to have great careers and never stop getting the dirt. Books are a great way to get new ideas, travel to new places, and meet new friends from long ago. Discovering interesting reading trails through reading books gives us a better understanding about people, cultures, and history. After all, the pen is mightier than the sword. That saying is attributed to an English author, Edward Burrell Linton. In fact, did you notice that the sword just the word words with the S flipped to the beginning? Idioms, acronyms, bookworms, onomatopoeia, hydroglobe. I think we're getting a few more clues to what dirt we are digging deeper in. Yes! How books are made. This book is a nonfiction and would be found in the 686 section of the library. Some libraries list this book and others like it in a special section of the children's library under J002. Be sure to get the dirt from your librarian. One One day, an author sees a new kind of dog. She wonders, what is a Cassie Terrier? She has an idea for a new book to write. The author researches Cassie Terriers. She reads books and websites. The author writes and rewrites. Now she has a manuscript. The author wants people to read what she wrote, so she sends her manuscript to many publishers. They make and sell books. Most say no, but one says yes. An editor reads the manuscript. He asked other editors to read it. He asked a Chesky Terrier breeder to read it. He fixes mistakes. He moves words around. A designer works for how the book looks. He finds pictures of Chesky Terriers and puts the words and pictures together in a computer file. Editors and designers look over the file for mistakes. The file is turned into a digital book to read on computers or e-readers. The file is also sent to a printer. At the printer, the book is printed on huge sheets of paper. Then pages are cut and glued and stitched to a cover. The book is ready. The publisher tells librarians about the new book. Readers are asking for books on Chesky Terriers. A librarian buys the book. At the library, a boy asked about dog breeds. The librarian shows him the new Chesky Terrier book. The author's idea is now in the hands of the reader. Did you know how the author in this book had an idea? Then she had to get the dirt on her idea, did her book become published, ready for us to buy right away? Doesn't look like it did. No, it took her many, many tries. Now, when I went to an author talk, that's a program where an author talks about their works and an author who is presenting challenged my sister and me to collect rejections. That meant we should just keep writing and not worry about when we would get our book published. Another job for a bookworm could be an editor. Do you like making sure words sound just right, look just right, and convey their message just right? Editing someone's work might be just the right career for you. Maybe you would like to design how the pages look, or print the book, or be at the library ready to check that book out to anxious bookworm. There are so many career opportunities for bookworms. Just keep reading. Did you know that putting books together is an art? This day and age, bookbinding is becoming somewhat of a lost art. But if you like to literally put the books together, then bookbinding might be the job for you. This one, there are two different ways to staple a book. For this one, since I don't have the right kind of stapler, it would be a big stapler that you can fold over into pages like this and then staple along the edge. It would be called a long arm stapler. Another kind of bookbinding is sewing the book. What you do is you get a needle, you poke holes in the binding, can poke as many or as few holes as you want. I'm going to poke a medium amount, you could say. Then you take the string. It can be any type of string. I'm using embroidery floss. What you do is after you cut a good amount of string, depending on how many holes you have in your book, then you want to tie a knot at the end of the string so it won't slip through the hole. You can tie knots many ways. One type of knot that I like to tie is I like to wrap the string around my finger and then just roll it up when I slide it off my finger so it rolls into a little pile. It can be tricky, but it's a pretty easy knot, and then you just pull it closed like this. Then you take the other end of the string and you feed that through the eye of the needle. The eye of the needle is the part of the needle that you can see through. There's a little space between the metal. So you feed the thread or string or whatever you're using through there, and then you take your book and you just start sewing up and down the binding. So I'm going to go up right here until the knot comes up to the end, and then you just go down into the next one, like that. Sometimes the string's not up, and then you need to be careful not to make a knot in the string so you can keep on pulling it through. Sometimes people put a lot of holes in the book, and then it takes a while for them to finish stitching the binding. Other times, people only put 2 or 3 holes in the book, and then they can stitch the binding quite quickly. If you look at the binding that I put holes in, I started out with small spaces in between mine. Then they got bigger, and then they get smaller again, just to give some variety of the differences that you can put your stitches in. This is one of my favorite ways to bind a book. I find it's because it makes the book very durable and easy to use. One of the advantages to this is that lots of people have the materials you need to bind a book, this type of book, at your own house. So you don't have to go somewhere and buy the things you need to bind a book. Like with the long arm stapler, not many people have those in their houses anymore, which means sometimes people would have to go out and buy one just so they could bind a book. But with sewing, it's much simpler. Sorry about that. Once you finish going through all of your holes, you go onto the inside. You can trim it so there's still quite a bit of thread left. And because this is embroidery floss, you can split it, but I'm not going to do that. You just have to tie a knot that's big enough so it won't slip back through the hole, and so it will stay put, and you don't have to re-sew it every so often. You can do different types of knots. It's not really a big deal. Any knot works. It just so it gets big enough so it won't go through the hole. I would suggest tying the knot on the inside of your book rather than on the outside, and then you can trim the knot when it's finished so it looks nice and neat. There's my knot, and I'm going to trim off the extra. So now, this is my book, and you can open it up and see the pages. The next type of book binding that you could do is there is stapling. Now remember I told you about long arm stapling? Well, that's the best type of stapling you could use. But there's another kind that you can use with a normal stapler. You fold the book in half, and then you just put stapling on the edges. If you're going to fold a book in half so it looks like this, there's going to be the pages in the middle are going to stick out farther than the pages on the side. That's where you take a pair of scissors and you trim the pages so they're all equal in length. Another type of binding you can do with a bigger size book is you need a hole punch. Many people have hole punches in their home also. You can do as many as you want. I'm just going to do 3. You put holes in the edge, and then you need to take some string. Embroidery floss is what I'm using. And say you cut yourself a decent sized piece, and then you feed it through the hole, and you make any type of knot so it will stay shut. You can do a bow, you can do a granny knot. I'm going to do a granny knot, but really any type of knot works just fine. I actually turned out doing a bow. Here. That didn't work. So that's what it looked like if you ended up doing a bow. I'm going to choose to do a granny knot. And then you can trim off the extras. My stapler is magnet, so it will magnetic to any other metal thing, which can be quite annoying. So you just do that to all of your stapling, the holes that you hole punched in. You can use the extra string to tie another section. The stapler got caught in my pair of scissors again. Depending on how much time you have and how much you want your book to be bound, again, it varies. The fewer times to the greatest time. I would say 3 is usually the least you could do. So now, I have a book that I can read. This is probably one of the simplest ways you can do it. Then, here's another version. This kind you need materials for. This is called a comb machine. Why it's called a comb machine is because the ones that you use to bind it, they come in multiple sizes, multiple colors. The ones that I have, the small ones are white, and the big ones are black. I'm going to use a black one so the camera can see it easier. It's called combs because it looks like you can comb your hair with it. Now, what you do is you put it in. So the side with binding goes in first. And then you take the lever arm and you have to crunch it through. So then you get tiny little rectangular holes lining the entire page. Then you put your comb in. Make sure the comb has the little teeth parts going around it, and so they're up. So I'm going to put it in right here and make sure it's completely down so it can catch it. And then you have to go up. Oh, see, mine didn't catch it completely over here. Up and down. And it will stay there. And then take the rectangles, and you may have to make sure that they go over all of your combs. Nice and easy. And then you slowly feed it back up. And then you pull it off the top. And if any of them are on the outside, you can just push them back into the inside. Not that hard. Like this. So this would be another type of book. This book is very common, and if you look in the library, I'm sure you can find some with bindings like this. Like there's one right over here. See, they even use this type of binding. So as you can see, it is a very, very, very common type of binding. So if you ever want to write a book, this would be the type of binding you could use. And the last type of binding that I'm going to show you today, remember, there's many, many more. This is not the only types of binding. It's another stapling type of binding. This time, it's a big page, like they all are, except you take the stapler and you just staple along the edge. This is an easy one, and it's great if you're making a book for a present for a relative or family member. You can do as many staples as you want, and then you open it. It's a great and easy type of book, and it works well too. So all these are different types of books that you could use to make bindings with. Very handy. I really like book binding too. Next, let's read about those who put the words and pictures on the pages of our books. These two books look similar, but different call numbers. The book What Do Authors Do? By Eileen Christenlow has the call number 808 because it is listed under literature in the Dewey Decimal System. The book What Do Illustrators Do? By Eileen Christenlow has the number 741 because it is listed under the art in the Dewey Decimal System. Get it? Author, word, literature, illustrator, pictures, art. You really are learning how to get the dirt at the library. Let's read What Do Authors Do? And What Do Illustrators Do? What do authors do? Authors get ideas for books at the strangest moments. Rufus, bad dog. Run, Max. Run, Rufus. Max, stop. Help. What got into those two? No one would believe this story. Story, a chapter book about Rufus and Max. A picture book about Max and Rufus. When authors have ideas for books, they start to write. There was once a dog to chase. No, Rufus was a dog who liked to chase. That's right. Once upon a time. No, a cat named Max made friends with a dog. Max was a famous cat. He was, no, every day he, that's me. Sometimes it is difficult to find the words. Sometimes authors write notes about what might happen in the story. Dog chases cat, cat chases dog, dog jumps into dog runs into woods. There's many ideas that authors do. Some authors who write picture books are also illustrators. Sometimes they sketch as they write. The sketches give them ideas. Sometimes authors need more information. So they go into libraries, historical societies, museums. They read books, old newspapers, magazine letters, and diaries written long, long ago. They take notes. They interview people. They take more notes. They listen and watch. They write and write and write and cross things out, throw parts of the story away, and start again. Sometimes they read their stories to their families. Their families make suggestions. Sometimes they read to author friends in a writing group. Their friends make suggestions. Sometimes authors get stuck, so they put their books away for a while. But usually, when they're doing something else, they get unstuck. Then they start to write again. Authors, who are also illustrators, make a dummy of the book to show how it will look like with the illustrations. It can take 1 year, 2 years, or more to finish writing a manuscript. When the stories are finished, the authors send their manuscripts to publishers. Sometimes they wait for weeks or months to hear whether the publishers like the books. Most authors have received rejection letters. Some rejection letters are encouraging, some are not. The authors are very persistent people. They work on their manuscripts some more. They send their manuscripts out to other publishers. Authors are very pleased when they find a publisher. But that isn't at the end of their writing a book. There's still more work to do. Authors have to sign contracts with their publishers. Authors go into the publisher's office to talk to their editors. Authors work on their stories with the editors. Editors suggest ways to make the stories better. The authors make changes. After the authors have made all the changes, designers decide how the book will look. They choose the size, and the shape of the book. They decide which type of styles to use. They design a cover. Designers choose illustrators for the books. Picture book authors do their own illustrations. Go over their artwork with a designer. The designer makes suggestions. It can take 4 months or more to finish all the illustrations for a picture book. When the illustrations are finished, they need to be checked to see if anything has been left out. When the story is set in type, it needs to be checked for more mistakes. Don't forget the dedication or the author photo. After the authors have sent all the corrections and changes to the publisher, they won't see their books again until they are printed and bound. When the designers have pasted up the words and pictures on the right pages, the author's books are sent to the printers. The printed sheets of paper go to the bindery where they are folded, gathered, trimmed, stitched, and glued into the covers by huge machines. The books are finished, thousands of them. They're packed into boxes. Copies are sent to the authors. Now that the books are published, it's a good time to celebrate. But the authors start to worry. How are people going to find out about their books? Are people going to like them? Magazines and newspapers review their books. Some reviews are wonderful. Some are not. Authors tell people about their books at schools and libraries. They answer questions. They autograph their books at bookstores. But important, authors think about ideas for their next book. If you want to find out what illustrators do, you can look under the 741 section, and here's a great book you can read about two people illustrating the same book called Jack and the Beanstalk, and how different illustrators can be. Wow, to be an author and an illustrator, you really need to know how to get the dirt. There are so many great opportunities out there if you are a bookworm. That reminds me, we've been learning a lot of great new words. Let's get the dirt on them. Let's see. Idioms. A group of words that mean one thing, not at all to what they are related, such as the book Calvin Can't Fly. Calvin was called a bookworm, but he isn't really a bug, such as a silverfish. Ice and linoleum, beetles, are literal bookworms because they inhabit it in books. No, Calvin is a bookworm because, like the real bookworms, spend so much time in books. So does Calvin. Acronyms. Words formed by using initial letters of a group of words, such as you would find in the book What is NASA? Sarah Finnaby, NASA, National Aeronautics and Space Administration, NASA. Acronyms can also be a set of initials with each letter pronounced separately, like in Ronald Dahl's book, The BFG. Adages are an odd sort of saying with a bit of truth. The book Birds of a Feather by Susan Corman used part of the adage, birds of a feather flock together, in its title. Homonyms. We read a book about them when we got the dirt on tall tales. That day we read a book, D.I.R.T by Janetta Retta. There were plenty of hyperglobes, exaggerated statements, into all those tall tales as well. We found a onomatopoeia in our book Zin Zin a Violin by Lloyd Moss, Mr. Brown Can Moo Can You by Dr. Seuss. It's also full of words that sound like they are said, such as moo, poo, and cock-a-doodle-doo. If you really like wordplay, I really enjoyed reading Scribble and Author by Mary Leschen-Pelly, found under the Easy section of the library under LES for Leisha Pelly. The pictures were too small for you to really enjoy on the video, so be sure to get the dirt at the library. Wow, being a bookworm, it's an idiom, sure open doors to many opportunities, ideas, and rich language. Have fun getting the dirt at your library and enjoy following the trail where your discoveries lead you. And next week, join us on Get the Dirt to finish the clues on what my first profession was going to be. And remember, if you ever want to find a book, feel free. It is very fun to do.